Hello, friends. I'm Kelly Crawford, and this is the Generation Cedar podcast. Formerly a high school English teacher, I'm a wife and now homeschooling mom to 11 kiddos, 7 of which are still at home. And here on the podcast, my passion is to encourage and inspire you about all things Christian motherhood and marriage, the power of homemaking, homeschooling with less stress, the joy of raising children to be disciples, living on one income, and so much more. Be sure to follow me on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss an episode, and you can also find more at my website at generationcedar.com. Let's dive into today's podcast. Today's episode is called How to Homeschool When You Think You Can't. And we're going to be busting 3 common myths that people have about homeschooling. So let's get to it. It's not just homeschooling advocates who recognize the plight of government education and desperately desire to make the public aware of the disadvantages public education gives to our children, especially now with Common Core standards. But besides veteran voices like John Taylor Gatto, he's one of my favorites to quote, Peter Gray, and Roger Schenck, these guys are education reformers who have been pleading for a decentralization of government schooling for quite a while. But in addition to them, a recent retiring school teacher joined with their voices in a retirement letter that has gone viral. And I just wanted to read a snippet of that. He writes, "My profession is being demeaned by a pervasive atmosphere of distrust, dictating that teachers cannot be permitted to develop and administer their own quizzes and tests or grade their own students' examinations. The development of plans, choice of lessons, and the materials to be employed are increasingly expected to be common to all teachers in a given subject. This approach not only strangles creativity, it smothers the development of critical thinking in our students and assumes a one-size-fits-all mentality more appropriate to the assembly line than to the classroom." And so he goes on to talk about several other real problems he sees that has been increasing in the government educational system. Slowly and thankfully, many parents want their kids out, but many also feel that homeschooling isn't an option. Then what to do? My first suggestion is that homeschooling may very well be an option for you if you're one of those parents. Before other alternatives are even discussed, I want to knock down a few common assumptions that people give about why they can't homeschool. Myth number 1, we can't afford it. While it may be true in some cases that without 2 incomes or without a second parent in the home, the basic bills, food, shelter, clothing, utilities, simply won't get paid, this is hardly ever the reality. The real reality is that major sacrifices may have to be made to cut back to one income. I'm speaking from experience that when your belief in the enormous advantages of homeschooling is strong enough, you will do drastic things to make it happen. It might mean cutting things you've been accustomed to. It might mean eating differently, shopping differently, or living differently. It might even mean moving to a more affordable house or area. It might mean exploring work from home options. There are so many work from home options now as opposed to a few years ago. But there's never been a truer statement. Where there's a will, there is a way. Additionally, due to our presuppositions about schooling, homeschooling can be done in the evenings as well as in the absence of parents if children are old enough to stay by themselves. Homeschooling can also be done virtually for free. When I first quit my job to come home and start homeschooling our kids, we had a yearly income of about, I think it was like $15,000. I know that was a long time ago, over 20 years ago, but I was expecting our 3rd child, and that was still very, very meager income for our family. It can be done. There are lots of ways to save money and earn money from home. The second myth I hear a lot is I'm not qualified to homeschool my kids. To which my answer is you don't have to be. Education isn't dependent on your knowledge, contrary to what you may have been conditioned to think. We've all been conditioned to think that. Education is helping a child learn what he needs to learn through experiences, books, tutors, videos, projects, conversations, through life and the human experience. Just like a young child learns what he needs to learn with adult guidance, he continues to learn the same way when given the freedom and opportunity to explore and find answers to his questions. And what I'm referring to is your young baby learned the English language without any formal curriculum, without your being an expert on languages. So God has just put in us this innate curiosity that propels us through life, and we learn what we need to learn when we need to learn it. The third myth is my kids won't be socialized, which is funny that that myth is still floating around because it's been debunked so many times. One of the very reasons we homeschool is precisely because we don't desire the kind of socialization that comes with a peer-driven culture. As Christian parents, we should consider strongly the Bible's admonition that he who walks with the wise will become wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm. Children learn best how to do life by the experience of being closely associated with those older and wiser than himself, especially as he learns proper social behavior. Besides that, homeschooled children actually have enormous opportunities to spend with peers if that's your desire. In our family, we have so many social opportunities that we have to limit them. We have to pick and choose because my kids just have an enormous number of different friend groups and sports and all sorts of social opportunities. They do not lack for that for sure. The bottom line on this issue is you can do it. You just have to take the plunge. So I'd love to hear what your hesitations are. Are there other myths that you believe or things holding you back from taking the plunge to homeschool? I would love to talk to you and help you take the plunge. So contact me, message me on my blog at generationscedar.com, or you can find me on Facebook. You can do it. Thanks so much for listening today. Hey, I'd love to hear from you. You can contact me through my blog at generationscedar.com or catch me on Facebook or Instagram. Tell me what has helped you, tell me what you'd like to hear, or just tell me your story. Until next time.